last Friday, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas declared, that's not Alejandro Mayorkas. I got to be able to do that. Like, Pat can really do that well, you know, when you're watching TV and somebody who is as white as I am, and then Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas declared white supremacist and domestic violence extremism to be the most prominent threat currently facing our country. The timing couldn't have been more perfect because just a few hours later, a jury in Grand Rapids, Michigan, exposed the Justice Department's largest alleged domestic terrorism case in the last 18 months as a failed FBI entrapment scheme designed to smear conservatives as white supremacists ahead of the 2020 election. This article is from the Federalist, I think. Yes, the Federalist. By refusing to convict 4 men accused of plotting to kidnap and kill Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer before Election Day, the Grand Rapids jury seemed to side with the defense attorneys who argued their clients were not domestic terrorists, but entrapped by undercover FBI agents and at least a dozen informants who planned and funded the kidnapping operation. The key to the government's plan was to turn general discontent with Governor Whitmer's COVID-19 restrictions into a crime that could be prosecuted, defense lawyers wrote. The government picked what it knew would be a sensational charge, conspiracy to kidnap the governor. And when the government was faced with evidence showing that the defendants had no interest in the kidnapping plot, it refused to accept failure and continued to push its plan. Now, what's interesting about this is the guy who was overseeing this particular operation has been transferred. He was transferred to Washington, D.C., given a promotion, and he's the guy overseeing the January 6th plot. Okay, so the FBI is very, very, very busy because they know white supremacists. That's what is coming for everybody, okay? Be careful. You may not be white enough, okay? Because I hear it's an albino mob, okay? And the first sign, that's why I'm wearing pink contacts right now. First sign you're not really an albino, oh, they burn it's like a hexagon in your front yard. Yeah. I don't know what the hexagon has to do, but it's not a cross. It's another symbol for not being albino. The hexagon. Anyway, so the FBI is looking for these crazy white, really white, almost pinkish white extremists. And that may be why they missed Frank R. James. Now, Frank R. James, not an albino. He's, quote, a troubled man who railed against Mayor Adams and made bizarre, threatening rants on YouTube. So YouTube, he had a page on YouTube where he was saying crazy things like...
Did you? Because I heard this a lot from a lot of sources yesterday, that he was making bizarre, angry, violent, racist threats.
Yeah, but,
and before they released the picture, man, they seemed to make that broad enough to. It's almost as if they wanted you to think of a particular type of person, perhaps an albino, who
damn albinos, they're out of control. My apology to the 1 or 2 albinos that are not violent extremists. I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
The albinos are not sending their best. They're not sending their best across the border.
Not. They're roving mobs.
But it was amazing that was the way it was. They didn't say it was anti-white racism, probably because they've spent the last 10 years telling us it's not possible. You can't, reverse racism isn't real. It's not possible. It can't occur. So how did this guy have racist rants in the first place?
So he said things like, it's just a matter of time before these black MFers decide, hey, listen, enough is enough, and these white people need to go. Oh, no, wait, it's the exact opposite of that. It's just a matter of time before those white MFers decide, hey, listen, enough is enough. These N-words got to go. On YouTube, as of yesterday, these white MFers, this is what they do. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they kill and commit genocide against one another. What do you think they're going to do to your black ass? Okay. And what are you going to do? You're going to fight? And guess what? You're going to die, because unlike Zelensky in Ukraine, nobody has your back. The whole world is against you, and you're against effing yourself. So why should you be alive again? That's the question. Why should an N-word be alive on this planet beside to pick cotton or chop sugarcane or tobacco? Now, this is allowed on YouTube, but some of my opinions on the lab leak for COVID banned. But this is allowed. I just want to say that's interesting. And we all agree, I think we'd all agree, this guy is crazy. He's crazy. But isn't that what the press and social media have been telling us that us crazy white conservatives are doing to the crazy people in our audience? Winding them up. It only takes one crazy person that happens to be listening. Where did he get the idea the whole world is against you? Why should you be alive? Why should an N-word be alive on this planet beside to pick cotton or chop sugarcane or tobacco? No one has your back, because that's almost the progressive bumper sticker.
It's just a message of despair.
Despair.
It's just telling a large portion of the country they will never be successful unless, of course, their white savior Democratic politician steps in to bail them out of their terrible, terrible times with these evil conservatives.
Let me tell you this. I cannot say this to you and make you this promise like I could have 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I would say to you, you can do anything. Anything. You can break all barriers. This isn't the 1950s. And I speak from experience as a guy who was the first to go to college and couldn't afford it in my 30s more than one semester. There's nobody in my family that was college educated. I made it. I built it. I went against the system. The system, I came into talk radio making fun, correct me if I'm wrong, making fun of talk radio. I went into television making fun of television, breaking all of the rules, doing it my way, not the way everybody else. Then, when they didn't accept, we built a network, the first network. No one had ever done it. HBO wasn't even on yet on the internet with live streaming. We were the first. I'm sorry. Major League Baseball was the first. We were the second into the boat. And look at it. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I mean, if you've listened, you know. But what I have is a belief in myself. I have a belief in common decency and common goodness. I have a belief in the system that good guys don't always win. Good guys sometimes lose, but in the long run, that truth wins. And nobody really cares about your problems. You know why? Because everyone has their problems. And everybody has them of differing degrees, but everybody thinks that their problem is the biggest problem. You go into somebody's office and you're like, hey, I got a real problem. The boss is thinking, oh, really? Really? You know what I'm dealing with today? You want problems? Let me sit down in your office and tell you some problems. Okay? But they don't say that because their job is to listen to you, to help empower you. Now, everybody's got a problem and they have to wear it on their sleeve. Now, the system is so corrupt that unless you have money, unless you have the right point of view, unless you vote the right way, I don't know if you can make it. That's new for me. I have always been a champion of the underdog in no other country than this one. Now, I don't know. But I will tell you, we're still out blazing trails. We still are optimistic about our future, somewhat. Let me make you this promise. If you adhere to a universal moral code, if you adhere to do unto others, love thy neighbor, if you can accept Glenn Beck's top 10 rules for life, formerly called the 10 Commandments, you're going to be all right. You'll make it. You know why? Because you'll be on the side of God, the universal truth maker. And as long as you remain on his side, everything's going to work out. May not be your dreams. I can't tell you. This isn't exactly what I planned. You know, when I started radio, this is not what I planned. In fact, this is nothing like I planned. However, it's good. There are no mistakes and no waste in God's universe. No waste. It's amazing how much you can screw up your life. And if you just put it on the right track and stay with Glenn Beck's 10 really good safety tips, formerly known as the 10 Commandments, it's amazing how all of that wasted time, all of that wasted energy, how all of those mistakes will be used, not by you, but by him somehow or another to put you right where you're supposed to be with all of the skills that you needed. Don't listen to anybody who says you can't do it. Don't listen to anybody who is saying the whole world's against you. No, it's not. No, it's not. My goal is to be like, what was the priest's name that was down in the basement of the concentration camps, remember? And they just, the guy was so positive all the time. They're like, okay, we got to just starve him to death. And they put him in a basement, and he got all of the other prisoners to start singing hymns. And now they really wanted to kill him because he was starving to death. He went blind from starvation. He was in so much pain, and yet he was still singing. He was happy. I want to be that guy, minus the starving in the basement of the concentration camp. But I want to be that guy. He didn't think the world was against him, and boy, he could have. He knew what was true. He knew the value of his own being. And he knew who he answered to. There's nothing more important than learning that.